I was like, the first look at Ursula from The Little Mermaid.
Someone tried to say Halle Berry online. I was like, that is generous. And someone was like, Angela Bassett. I was like, stop discrediting these beautiful actresses' names. How dare you?
Well, not to be confused with an episode of RuPaul's Drag Race Untucked. You are on D&M. It is Tyrone and Abby with the one and only Kween Kong.
Yes.
Welcome.
Oh my God. Hi, family. How are we going? Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
How did you know I was untucked? Could you tell? God damn it.
She's hanging out.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Truly, we are such big fans. Aww. We were just saying we feel like we try and talk to you any opportunity we can.
Oh, I love being spoken to. So thank you for talking to me. But you've been booked
and busy. It's been hard.
Yeah, look, Spanky won the crown. She definitely won the crown, but I won the booking. So listen. No, just jokes. Love you, Spanky.
Does that just feel like a world ago? Filming it obviously happened so long before it even is released.
Yes.
It's out. It's done. Does that seem like a lifetime ago?
Oh, well, like this time last year, I think we were episode 6 today. Wow. This is the episode where me and Beverly had the showdown. And I had to remind her that we are sisters and give her a bit of tough love. But yeah, this time last year, that was episode 6. So I don't know who that girl is anymore. I think I've grown a lot. Oh yeah, her. No, who? I'm just kidding. That girl, Kween Kong, that version of Kween Kong's definitely long gone. So yeah, it feels like a lifetime ago, but I also feel like I have a reference point of what I don't want to be ever again.
Yeah, absolutely. And particularly that episode as a Drag Race girly, that felt like it must have been so difficult to navigate. As your position there, you're trying to, both be an entertainer, but also feeling this, job and responsibility to educate a queen as well. Was there a moment where you were like, I don't want to fucking do this. I just want to, I can't be bothered.
That was the moment, that episode where I was just like, listen, you keep saying mum, I'm not your mum.
Yeah.
And also I'm an island mum.
Yes.
We discipline. So I think that episode for me was that point for my journey on the show where I just went, oh my God, I'm so sick of this narrative of as a queen of color, this conversation of someone antagonizing and then me finally responding, not reacting, responding, because it took a couple of episodes in, and then being labeled kind of the aggressor, or this is not the maternal Kween Kong that I thought she was. You know, and I'm like, why did I have to question my character? I just won the reading challenge, and you're the one trying me. Listen, we saw how you did, but so obviously since then we've gotten on since then, and we've learnt lessons. But I think that point in the competition was just one of the turning points for me, where I went, oh my God, who cares what people think?
Totally.
So you're never gonna make anyone it's impossible to make everyone like you. And I think in that moment I went, oh my God, Beverly, I've got the longest history with you. Why are we beefing like this? You know me, I know you. Why are you doing this? Is it for the cameras?
And do you have that comment section in your head as you're having those conversations? And then how do you, once you're out of the show, get out of that mind space?
Well, it's such a microcosm. They put you obviously in a room on your own, take your phones away from you. You can't speak to anyone. So you don't get the ability to soundboard or debrief. So you feel stuck in those kinds of situations, especially when there's conflict, because you're going, is it me? Is it them? And then you got producers whispering in your ear, making you feel like you're right or you're wrong. And then it's just such a hyper reality, a different space. So coming away from the show after going through it the way that I did, I learned a lot about myself, and I feel like it was really rewarding. Didn't win the crown, but I feel like it set me up to win the world.
Win hearts.
Win
fans.
hearts. And the bookings. And secure the bags.
And also you said a bit earlier, win the bookings. It is World Pride, booked and bloody busy. Talk to us about the plans over the next, month.
Oh my God, the plan for me in World Pride is to stay alive. Because it's one of those things where I'm such a yes person, and I think I got really excited because the idea of World Pride coming to Australia is massive. I think the biggest thing that I was excited and am excited about the most is the Mari Marang Putput, which is the First Nations gathering space, because it's the first First Nations gathering space in any World Pride. So we are pioneering something that's really important. And so initially when that came up and was happening, I just said yes to everything, and now that it's coming to fruition, I'm like, how am I going to do this all? There's only one of me. What the hell's going to happen? Sorry, my phone's calling. My manager's trying it. Yeah, she's like, you're supposed to be somewhere else. What are you doing? But yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to have to try and stay alive and breathe. Yeah.
Oh. I know it's going to be a busy period. Talk to us about, I really want to know the story of how Kween Kong came to fruition. I want to know this first time where you performed, because I've read different versions and different stories of what went down. I think it was at a party. It was the first time you had done makeup. Safe to say you absolutely nailed the dancing component, but I think there was like a quote where you said, I thought I looked like Beyonce, but turns out I look like Beyonce's dad.
Period. Which is still kind of relevant today. From the neck up, Beyonce, neck down, Jay-Z. But listen, I don't know, like my first gig, like I'd always been interested in drag, and I've been a professional dancer since 16, and so I've been performing for years, but like the idea of doing drag had always been interesting to me. And so one of my best friends who was in the dance company I was in, he signed us up to do a variety show over Halloween, and he was like, okay girl, we're gonna do it. And I was like, what are we doing? We're doing drag. And we had this little drag duo act called Belle Moss, because we thought that we looked like Naomi Campbell and Kate Moss. Listen, we were just delusional. We were 21 like Beverly. But listen, it was, so we signed up, did the gig. We had never done makeup before, so I practiced like a smoky eye here and there. You know, the whole shabam, gluing down your brows, everything. And in Adelaide, it's like 40 degrees dry heat on like a good day. And one of those days was the day that we were performing. And our dressing room was like, the walls were like stone. And like there was like one fucking, I remember it, there was like one fan circulating that hot air. And we're sitting there, I was trying to glue my brows, like glue, and then the brow was just running. And I was just like panicking, going, they're going to call us on. So it took me about 4 hours to do the makeup. It looked horrible. But I remember feeling like a superstar when we got on that stage, even though I looked like a crackhead. So it's definitely a journey. It wasn't that long ago, too. It was only like 6-7 years ago.
That's incredible.
So crazy. Yeah.
Did you have at that point, once you were like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, it's what I'm going to pursue, drag is, you know, the goal. Did you have any particular aspirations in, you know, was Drag Race a goal? Were there, you know, World Pride, Mardi Gras, those sort of things?
I think like my eye was really kind of focusing on the scene that I was in. So the state that I was living in was South Australia for like 10 years. And because there wasn't many queens of colour, you know, I was just like, I would like to create a space, you know, where, because there was definitely a few of us that like wanted to have a space and also wanted to perform, but we didn't necessarily get afforded the opportunities to perform. And so I started, you know, brainstorming and dreaming of ways to, you know, approach venues and like think of like shows that we could do that could also not only like let us perform, but let us perform our kind of work, you know what I mean? Because whenever I'd go into a club, like a gay club, their idea was like, oh, R&B is like TLC. You're like, no, Scrubs is like hip hop, you know what I mean? And I'm like, listen,
it's a bit spicy, that one.
Yeah, like damn, you know. So like, I just wanted to. I was longing for like an area or a space where like queens of color could actually come together and do what we wanted to do. Also, at the time, no one padded. Like the idea of padding, I used to pad, and people were like, "Why are you so like shapely? You look fat." And I'm like, "Girl, like this is the fantasy for me." Like, and now everyone wants a Kim Kardashian ass, so suck shit. Like, so yeah, I think the thing that I wanted the most was to create spaces, and I think across the whole career, that's been the main thing, just creating more spaces and activating spaces. You know. Yeah.
Well, speaking of creating that space, House of Kong is something that you have running as well, creating space for children who, you know, don't find solace at home or don't find acceptance for, you know, what family looks like at home. Talk to me about House of Kong and sort of how that came to fruition and what that means to you.
Oh, well, I was raised in a house. You know, I think most POC community, especially like, you know, the idea of ballroom, and like I came up in ballroom, like voguing was the thing, and I had a house mother who just took me off the street and, you know, taught me how to be a good person, a decent person, first and foremost. And so in Adelaide, when I started the scene for myself and started doing my own events, I've noticed how young ones would just gravitate to me. And I could see that some of them were like rough, you know, like majority. The reality is some of these kids, when they get kicked out of home, like they turn to like sex work, or they turn to things that they like, just easy ways to make money, but there's not much safety involved. And so as a drag mum, you know, and a big Pacific Island mama, like I'm a big feeder, so I'd you know, help these kids as much as I could, but I'd always open my doors so they could come and live with me. And eventually that House of Kong turned into like an outreach program and community development. So we started getting grants, and now we work with most of the institutions in South Australia to create opportunities. So we do a Neo Teen Takeover at the South Australian Arts Museum. They do a once a month takeover for youth, and not only queer youth, but just youth in general, to come and see colourful, there's drag queens, there's like musicians, there's so many options and things for them to go, okay, I want to be that when I grow up, or I want to do that, or you know what I mean? Just giving them options to express themselves so that they don't turn into, angry, aggressive adults, because I feel like it's important to make things fluid, especially feelings. So that's where House of Kong started, and how it shifted into something that was more broad. I've got like 38 drag babies in South Australia.
Wow.
I've got the hips to prove it too. So I proved them myself. Listen, it's just important. I think I'm always wanting to create safe spaces, and House of Kong was the first place that I started that.
Yeah. Well, your history in dancing as well, I mean, it dates back to, like you said, when you were 16, you head down, ass up, working as a dancer. Was there ever a situation that you sort of felt like you needed or a space to be able to feel accepted as a child? Was that manifested into House of Kong? Is that how?
Totally. Well, that's such a great way to sort of segue. I think dance, because I've always been the first of my kind in most of the careers that I've been in. So it wasn't just dance. I was a contemporary dancer. You know what I mean? And listen, like telling my mum and my dad, come and see my contemporary dance show. The first show I took my mum to see, it was Australian Dance Theatre. I don't mean to name and shame, but I'm naming and shaming you. The director, there was this whole section that I had to lead was like the humping section, like the hump, and I was humping for like aggressively for about 5 minutes. My Pacific Island mum is in the front, are like, needless to say, my mum never came back.
Yeah.
Not the humping.
The humping.
The humping section.
This is art. You know what I mean? Community art. So my mum was like, never seen.
Contemporary.
It's contemporary. I don't know what it means, but we're humping. So for 5 minutes too, and staring at my mum, I was like, oh, so uncomfortable. So needless to say, I needed a safe space because that was so unsafe.
Oh, I'm so glad you actually brought up your mum, because I read this thing about Kween Kong being birthed from those strong women in your life and making you, well, like you said, the man that you are today. And it's so funny because you're like, these women are making you who you are today. Talk to me about these strong women in your life and what sort of roles they played in order for us to be sitting here like on the couch talking to Kween Kong.
Oh my goodness, they did everything. I think the main thing that they did was teach me how to navigate what I am. You know what I mean? I think we come from my Pacific culture. It's very layered, because when religion came, the ideas of religion really trumped any kind of pre-colonial ideas of gender, sexuality, or even identity. And so my mum and my aunties and my grandmother, especially, who's like the matriarch, they just knew that I was more. It wasn't different. My nan always says, "You're more." You are more. And I was like, I am more. But like my mum and my sisters and my aunties, my grandmother, they were just super good at I would always watch them navigate all of these men, and the way that I would depict it was like all these broken men that didn't know how to empathize with their emotions. So they would, when they're physically strong, they can intimidate and get power that way. But when they get older, I'm looking at my dad now going, man, you were once like this god that I was so scared of, and now you're, shrinking and like turning into a more vulnerable character. And now we have to empathize and go, he's old now. But in my mind, I'm like, but he's still an asshole. He was an asshole. Like, oh God, just because he's like, I want an apology. You know what I mean? So these women were always really good at navigating all of these tricky situations growing up, and always protecting us from like things that were really just compromising, And I thank my mum and my sister, because it's meant that I've been able to come out of that space and not be a part of the system or part of the cycle that sort of tends to happen when you're part of those kinds of communities. Aggression, violence, all of that kind of stuff. Alcohol abuse, all of the things. There's so many stereotypes that you can, pin on that kind of way of thinking. But those women really helped me to feel rather than think. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And speaking of your family, you spoke on the show about your sister,
yes,
who has since passed, and wishing that you could honour her in the way that she wanted to be honoured. How important is that in your drag, in representing, not only these broader communities and your drag children, but also your closer family and your sister?
So important. I think because anything that you do when it's a career, there are times when things are difficult, and you just want to quit. And I have those times always. Like I think we all have our own versions of mental health, and the waves of what you go through. And I think it's people like my sister, my mum. It's all these images of these women and the things that they've done for me that keep me going when things get really tough. You know what I mean? Yeah. Especially my sister, because there's a big part of me that is exactly that spirit, you know. So and like being Queen and doing Queen as long as I have been doing, like I still feel really connected to her, even though physically she's not here. I know that she's here, you know what I mean? Like, it's to live with her, you know, doing this and dressing up and performing and talking to people and creating spaces. So it's really important.
It is really important. And part of World Pride and part of your drag is queer joy. And we've spoken about it with a few of the guests, but what does queer joy mean to you, and maybe what is like a moment for you, whether it's in your drag, out of drag, whatever it may be, that has epitomized queer joy?
Oh, you know, I think it's for me the joy comes in a place where you feel like you belong. You know, I think most of us in our entire community, there's so many obviously different minorities within the minority, but I think there's something about Pride that I always appreciated. It is a time where we can visibly and just unapologetically celebrate ourselves, you know what I mean, in whatever shape, form we are. And I think, you know, most of the community, the wider community, come on board. Some of them don't, but regardless of that, the fact it is like our time, the 1 month or the 1 week a year where we get to come together and be queer together, hold each other hand in hand with allies as well, and just celebrate. So I think that's my version of joy, being able to come together and finding a place that you belong.
Do you have any particular events that are happening throughout World Pride that you are most excited to see, to be a part of, and to just be present for?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I'm excited for, and I said it before, is Mari Marang Butbut, our First Nations gathering space, because the program, it's like a 6-day takeover of Carriage Works, you know, and so the program is jam-packed full of World First Nations artists, thinkers, creatives, and leaders, you know, coming together to hold a space for, you know, our communities. And I think the beautiful thing about this is it offers an opportunity for the wider community to come in and experience our point of views, or, you know, see what it actually means to experience things from our eyes. And my show, Club Village, is one of the headlining shows, and it's definitely like a showcase of like all of the excellence that we have. We have drag, circus, burlesque, cabaret, dancing. There's just everything that you would want. So I'm excited for that, and to be a part of this movement, which is sort of at the forefront of my whole drag. Like, activism is like my main thing, and I know that it really rubs some people. I feel buttholes clench when I talk about race. You know what I mean? I literally feel it. Like, if I'm sitting on a panel and someone's talking about, I say race, I just feel. I'm like, hey, can you chill out? Can you chill out? Like
RuPaul, like.
Yeah, literally, like, like, mama, don't stop it. But yeah, I think it's these conversations, as hard as they might be, they're really important. So they get easier when we talk about them, and I think my intention is to talk about them so that we can move forward as a collective, rather than just what we're doing, which is sort of like come and go. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that.
A really important question, I guess, in like overall community is, what would you say to your younger self?
Oh my god,
This is Queen from
hours
hours ago.
Wow, I would say burn that wig. Sorry, that's a Boots by band. You know, it's cute, but maybe not on me. I was feeling Tony Braxton that day. I think I'm giving Urkel, but yeah.
I was like the first look at Ursula from The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, she had her wig snatched. Oh my god, I look like I've had 3 edibles. Oh. I look like I just got a prescription for MDMA when it's legalized. Wow. Actually, no, it's giving from this. It's giving from this distance. Yeah, it looks great.
It's giving.
I would say don't wear that wig ever again. Burn it.
Oh my god, I'm crying.
Who do I look like? I look like someone. Someone tried to say Halle Berry online. And I was like, that is generous. And someone was like, Angela Bassett. I was like, stop discrediting these beautiful actresses' names. How dare you? I look like my dad or my uncle.
Oh my god.
What would you say to young Kween Kong with that wig on? Yes.
Yes.
Community.
Community. Yes. It's all about party here at D&M and World Pride. There's plenty of stuff happening. We want to know, along with all of our talent really that we talk to, who are you at a party? What is your role? Are you hosting the party? Are you the D&M? Are you
entertaining
the party starter?
Right.
Who is Kween Kong?
Oh my god! Well, this is the thing. That's very layered because depending on who's at the party, is like the role that I'll take on. Generally speaking, and this happened to me at Victoria Pride last weekend. Not naming and shaming, just the community. But like people just trauma dump. You know what I mean? They just dump on you because I am like a mother. So but they feel like they have to forge a connection with you by like telling you things that have happened. You know what I mean? And I'm like having to go on stage and introduce someone else. I'm like, I've given up on the amazing electric fields. Someone just dumped something really horrible and traumatic on me. But you know, there's that pressure. But generally speaking, with my friends, I'm the troublemaker. Like literally, like this is one story on Drag Race, and like, well, if it gets out, it's so fine because I'll say it again. But Spanky and Hannah, they're such like pussies, and I'm like such a troublemaker. So I was like, come on, girls. Like there was a stairway on our side of because we were locked in our rooms. But there was a secret stairway that would go down to bars, and I was secretly sneaking out and going just to test the waters and get drinks every now and then. And I was like, come on, girls, it's our last night. Let's do it together. They were such pussies. They're like, we're going to get caught. And I was like, what are they going to do? Get rid of the whole top three? Like, absolutely not. Let's do it.
Give it to Molly?
Yeah. And then we went into and then the last day we went into the studio and I was like, we were rehearsing for Who Is She? And we're right next to RuPaul's dressing room. And I was like, come on, let's just go and look inside. Like, I won't steal anything. I just want to look inside the dressing room. They wouldn't even do that. And I tried it anyway. It was locked. So she was like, I would have stole all the wigs and the costumes and the shoes. I'd have been like, oh my God, I got this new Wigs by Vanity that was made 3 times the size. But yeah. So I'm the troublemaker at the party.
Maybe we should go up and make trouble at this party.
Yes.
It's been a joy. It's been a pleasure.
Love yous. Thank you
Queen
so
Kong,
much.
thank you so much for joining us on D&M.
Appreciate it.
Let's get out of here.